Maayong hapon. Before we lose ourselves sa frenzy sa pagtinubagay, let us bring ourselves back to where the province of Cebu is coming from. Asa mi gagikan ani. This is not about personalities. This is about a very, very special issue or principle, and it is local autonomy. Okay? Sa kadtong naanay buot, nakahibaw nga ang atuang konstitusyon is particularly, kalimot na ni senior citizen atong basahon ha. Section 3 of Article 10 mandates Congress to pass a law devolving certain powers of government. Pursuant to Section 3, Article 10, in 1990, Congress enacted Republic Act 7160. Okay. 7160, among others, devolved basic health services to local government units. Eh, di na lang nato kanang tagsa-tagsaon. Pero munang nagtukod na ang mga provincial hospital, integrated health office. Kung makahinumdum tong diri na sa una ng reklamo taon ng ubang LGU adto kay gidevolve ang functions, ang kwarta wala. Pero nabawi naman karon sa Mandanas case, which ato ra pong mahisgutan. Okay, so naana na. So ang delivery of basic health services, which before 7160 was entirely within the sphere of the DOH, nabuwag na. Ang majority of the services gihatag sa local government units because as it is then and it is true now, ang yamumo, ang gusto magud sa tao nga ang serbisyo sa gobyerno kinahanglan involved tong tagtungod. Dito sa lokal may magbuot. Unang ang initiatives o ang programa dapat dito sa lokal. So, naana na. That's 7160. Naay nangutana ng Secretary of Interior of Local Government. Unsa daw kuno'y basis sa usa ka local government mupasa og ordinansa ug mupasa og executive order para aning basic health services. Ang among tubag, Republic Act number 7160. Kung wala siya masayod ana, dili siya angay tawgog Secretary sa Interior and Local Government. Misnomer. Apparently, his position is central government. In this, ang Secretary of Interior and Local Government mo uphold sa local autonomy nga gimandate sa Constitution nga gitangkaan nipon sa Congress through 7160 mo insistir legal basis. So, balihon ko, naaman mi legal basis, ang ako lasan utang ipangutana, kung kinsa na ba na iyang tigtubag niya, kung the truth shall set you free, Mr. Malaya, unsa may basis sa statement nga superior ang iyang guidelines to a provincial ordinance and an executive order. Okay? So, that's our legal basis. 7160. Daghan kaayo sa 7160 nga atong makutlo, pero 3 units na sa College of Law. Ako lang klarohon nga bisag dili ato musandig lang gani dayon mi kanilang ato lang ibutang sa section 5A sa Local Government Code kanang any provision on a power of a local government unit shall be liberally interpreted in its favor. And in case of doubt, any question thereon shall be resolved in favor of devolution of powers. Okay? And of the local government unit. Any fair and reasonable doubt as to the existence of the power shall be interpreted in favor of the local government unit. Pagka makina local government, daghan kina ang mga provision. Okay? Pero dito ninyo na makita sa local health boards. Yan yung ngano mang ang province niya itong aging panahon ni follow man sa guidelines. Pinasikat man sa balaod kay tanaw ninyo sa section 105 sa local government code, no? Sige naman ta nagibalik-balik in cases of emergency or calamities or kaning pandemics or ano na may katungod ang presidente, ang Secretary of Health, kumanduan siya sa presidente nga mo take full control and supervision. Pero as you already know, dili na mo lapse of 6 months. So, that's the first exception. The second exception, if Congress also passes a law, naambya to'y katong bayanihan an act, di ba? 1, 2, 3. Gigrant man sa presidente ang power ato. So, standby kadyot ang local government code ato. Okay? Na may emergency power sa presidente. Pero naaraman to'y kutuban. Dili man to lahos-lahos. So, wala na ron. So, ang section 105 na exception, dili na mo apply. Ang katong emergency power sa presidente, di na mo apply. Unsa may mo apply? Local government code. The power is within the local government unit. And that power can be exercised by the sanggunian passing an ordinance by the chief executive through an executive order. That's our basis. Now, kung muingon sila, ato na lang andaman-daan, naay power of supervision ang presidente, which is also a constitutional provision. Naay power of supervision. Year 2000, resolved na unsay pasabot anang power of supervision. In 2000, nidesisyon na ang Supreme Court sa kaso ni Senator Pimentel kontra adtong Executive Secretary ni Cory Aquino sa una nga si Aguirre. Okay. And akong basahon para dili ta maikog sa Supreme Court sa ilang in English. In bank ni nga desisyon, si Justice Panganiban nagsuwat. Okay. And I will quote. This is, para klaro ha, Aquilino Q. Pimentel Jr. versus Honorable Alexander Aguirre. GR number 132988, promulgated July 19, year 2000. Justice Panganiban ang ponente. And I quote, "The Constitution vests the President with the power of supervision, not control over local government units. Such power enables him to see to it that LGUs and their officials execute their task in accordance with law." Okay? In accordance with law. Not in accordance with Secretary's wishes. In accordance with law. Okay? While he or the President may issue advisories and seek their cooperation in solving, at this time, economic difficulties, he cannot prevent them from performing their task and using available resources to achieve their goals. He may not withhold or alter any authority or power given them by law. Klaro, di ba? Naa siya power of supervision. Pero unsa may power of supervision? He will just see to it that the province or the governor is acting within the law, not within the guidelines because the guidelines is not a law. Unsa may nakalisod, ana? Lisod kay mahimo magong personality or office-oriented. Presidente ni. No. Even the highest office is beneath the law. Beneath the Constitution. Naiklaro kung kami sa probinsya sa Sugbo, na tungod sa paningkamot sa mga gobernador, nga nahimo nagyong klaro na, muna ingon nga unprecedented Grand Slam winner, nga number 1 province sa tibuok Pilipinas. Bisag wala pa'y kompetisyon, bisag wala pa'y ideklarar, morally, we should be the champion of local autonomy. We should be. Dugay na namong hinahinay ang pagkibisog nato to achieve local autonomy was not given to us on a silver platter. Hinahinay, di ba? Paningkamot. Kaning desisyon, Pimentel versus Aguirre was one kanang kadaugan. The last one, you will know that Dale, ang Mandanas case, di ba? Nagiklaro. Kay hatag ang kwarta dito sa local government. Ang local government may pagbutaan na. Kay mo may kiingon sa itong konstitusyon, mo may ingon sa itong balaod. Now, suddenly, a guidelines nga on its face, wala lang ko'y guidelines. Nag-ingon gayod ang guidelines mismo. Kay, ang nagsuwat, ani mga abogado man. Number 7, LGUs are enjoined to enact the necessary ordinance to enforce protocols contained in these guidelines and to penalize in a fair and humane manner, etc., etc. Naa sila'y advisory. But, sa desisyon na daan sa Pimentel versus Aguirre, pwede sila mohangyo. Pero kung di ni musugot, dili nila masuplant ang desisyon sa sanggunian padlalawigan, hindi musugot sa ilang guidelines kay bahaw na panahon pang kining panahon na basta nalanta bahaw na, di cannot supplant it. Unfortunately, these guidelines is not law. Unfortunately, although there are exceptions to cases wherein an executive can pass an executive order which has the force and effect of the law, but the general rule, ano na lang, para sa yung sabton, ang executive order can only have the force and effect of a law if it is enforcing a law. Di ba? Kung walay balaod, unsa may ngipon? Kung walay balaod, requiring you to wear a mask, mahimo ka arbitrary nga sir, unsa may balaod? Balaod ni sinultian pas mga tigulang ni subas buang. Kinsa lay mutsod sa imong ulo mo ni balaod? We have a system. We protect that system. Wala pa man usba. Si Senator elect Rubin Padilla gusto usbon ng ato ang konstitusyon. Pero as of now, we have that constitution. We have laws passed pursuant to that constitution, and we will stand strong behind that. To repeat, our provincial ordinance and the executive order are anchored on the local government code, which was passed pursuant to a constitutional mandate. Ambot sa lubot sa ok-ok, asa na ang iyahang source, ang iyahang statement nga walay legal source, walay legal basis ang ordinansa o ang executive order. Daghang salamat. Paningot nung kuda.
Question? Question.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Carlos Sepulveda, Sugbo Radio.
Uy, Sepulveda ka? Bias ka.
No.
Magaling gwapo ka.
Question. Makuha lang may comment directamente from both ni Gov.
Hindi pa.
Attorneys. Regarding sa ningon ang DILG na makatubang si Gov o kaning kaso kung mapalpak ang executive order. Ano sa comment mo?
kung unsay pasabot nila kana lagyo kay abogado ba tayo kung mag-inom tanto sa iskina daghang kay kog tubag anang kinumidya o pasiaw pero inabogado imong pangutanan nako first and foremost unsa man kasuha nga atubangon og second is unsa may definition of terms day what do you mean by palpak di ba taas kayo napalpak ang executive order unsa sabot nimo napalpak kay unsa man ang klarong napalpak ang guidelines. And I thank you, salamat kay Gaw. Nga naman, ang amuang executive order of ordinansa also recognize the fact nga gihimo kanilang guidelines, gihimong kubidiin taon ng atong kapulisan. Di ba? Hindi, magin nila ma-enforce. I don't know how would we see nga dakpon tanang taong magbaskara sa in-open spaces maski manggani ang presidente in-open space kitang tanga maskara ano man dakpa instead of protecting the policeman nga under sa iyahang department di ba which will subject the policeman now to ridicule kay maski ikaw day kung dakpon ka kung sa may mong isulti ano man lagi katong pagkampanya on sila pandakpa ngano man lagi nimo dakpa tong nag-inom sa iskina ngano man lagi to nimo dakpa tong nag-uma ngano man lagi nimo dakpa tong nag-picture taking gay dili man na exempted activity ng picture taking mura man ang exempted diri eating and drinking okay participating in team and individual sports in venues where ventilation standards can be maintained bisura sabton ala unsay kanus ala practicing outdoor sports wala pero picture taking dili pwede so we are basically kaninga guidelines espousing absurd situations opening up our police officers or enforcers of the law to possible ridicule mulang giklaro sa atuang ordinansa ug sa atuang executive order nga optional on open and well ventilated spaces.
Question, sir. The Secretary said that there is no legal basis, it is defective. Can we determine that, sir? What body can determine?
Ako siya bitang gipangutana. Gitubag naman namo nga naa mi 7160 nami. Ako siyang pangutan-on pod. Naa man kay legal conclusion naghimo naman kag judicial fiat. Unsa may ang legal basis? Kimo man na ingon sa ako ang katiguangan para dili ko mapasanginlan nga magpalabi-labihon, ako lang isukli sa iya ang iyang istorya. Ningon siya wala may legal basis sa abuang ordinansya o sa EO. Pagawas siya og statement. Legal pronouncement atong tawagan na, di ba? Conclusion of law. Akong pangutana po sa iya, bawas lang po, kung sa may imong legal basis o support, nga nagpagawas ka na. And then, akong hangyo sa iya, do it in 15 days. No more, no less. Kaya kung musaylos 15 kadlaw, bahaw, wala na, no force and effect.
Okay, attorney, ako lang nga aklarohon ang policy nga gidraft sa IATF dili makasupersede sa provincial ordinance nga balaod na.
Yes. Because at most, the policy is an advisory. Pupitaw, LGUs are enjoined. Advisory lang, hangyo lang. Dami mga LGU nga nipas og ordinansa like I think Mandawi. So it's okay. But as I've said, katong pronouncement na daan sa Pimentel nga case, maka-advise siya, pero they cannot prevent the sanggunian panlalawigan to act well within accordance with their wisdom, opinion, tanaw, as long as it is in accordance with law. They cannot supplant it. Okay, bilas nganong ni-violate man ni wala man. Because there is no law requiring for. Siya, national policy. It's a policy. An advisory. No, una. There are policies that are supported by law. Then it's totally a different matter, di ba? Like that's the policy of the governor, kato yung executive order, ipasa ang ordinansa, dili na policy mo'y birahadon, di ba? Ang ordinansa na, balaod na. Pangutana sa ilang guidelines, na balaod. Unless LGUs pass, wala. Wa man mo pass ang National Congress ani. Di lagi na to libugon, simple ra mo gyud ta kayo. Balaod mo'y matuman, di ba? Kung ang imong opinion dili balaod, at most imong posisyon dili balaod, at most it is an advisory. Kung dili paluhon, sorry na lang.
Attorney, going back sa question, so the Secretary has no power to render such
DLG render a opinion. Naman ito po ang Department of Justice perhaps. Di siya may abogado sa gobyerno. Ang Secretary of Interior and Vulcanizing, local government. Man siya, dili man siya. So, but in fairness, that could be his personal opinion. And my personal legal opinion, it has no legal basis. That's why I'm asking him to provide the legal basis also. Okay? Huwag ko kita ng legal basis yun.
the court attorney, no? That will determine.
Of course, it's the court that determines. But we know how courts act. Okay? We have a law. There is a procedure if they would like to question our law. Real politics or real governance, there's a lot of ways, di ba? Magduwa-duwa tani, magduwa. But kita ray kapanluwa tag langit, gay puro man tag gobyerno. Kita ray gyapon maigo. Oh, when reviewing an ordinance, can the reviewing supervising authority declare an ordinance illegal contrary to public policy? If expressly allowed under the law, the reviewing authority can only declare an ordinance ultra vires. But it is not the DILG that can do it because that is beyond its functions. Reviewing laws is the Secretary of Justice.
So, attorney, if ilag yung insister, a possibility nga mo sangat o declaratory relief for the court to determine
Kisay mo sangat sila? Sila pa sangata.
sila.
Oh. We are confident that the province of Cebu has an ordinance. And there is a presumption. If there is an ordinance, there is a law. Ano ka namin naman mo sangat doon?
Are the provincial ordinance subject and
Kanaw. Naaman diri. Di lang mi musultig gyud sa ninamo pagkuha.
That is under,
Ah.
that is official ko.
Mm.
Official nga there.
Under sa local government no. So, a provincial ordinance subject to review by the President and DILG? No. The President have no such, and DILG have no such authority under any statute. Wala, kumtakay sila. But only the DOJ and the DBM can declare provincial tax ordinances and appropriation ordinances respectively illegal and ultra vires. So, klaro na tugtubag. Dil ha? Only tax ordinances na i-power ang DOJ o DBM. Because there is no law granting the DOJ, the DBM, or any other department for that matter, the power or authority to review a provincial ordinance.
Even can the provisions of ordinances be changed?
Can the provisions of ordinances be changed? Like a tax ordinance, can it be changed? No. Because this would amount to control. Di ba? Ang ilang power is supervision naman. So, at least ka-idea na mo, they have power of supervision. Pwede, ang power of ang supervision under local government is that you just see to it that your subordinate is acting within the power, within the law. Dili nimo maingnan nga, dai mo ni buhata day. Ino na nimo, dai. Wa na kay labot ana. Dai. Nanubra na imong gaw.
Na ato i-research.
And
Inyong ato i-research.
these kaning mga opinions, we got it from an advisory from the Local Governance Law for All by AC Agra. Okay? Kailan mo ni AC Agra, no?
The person chairman of the PRA.
PRA. And formerly, murag Department of Justice, man sad ni siya sa una, or Government Office of the Government Corporate Council. But at any rate, klaro, kung walay statute, walay balaod, ang authority granting the President or any of his department the power to review a provincial ordinance, wala sila power to review. So, much more, you have no power to declare it as illegal unless tax ordinance or appropriation ordinance na ang DOJ o DBM.
Curious lang sir, if nagtingnan man ito ang mga IATF na one of the resolutions were adopted as executive order of the President daw. Yes, some of it, but not all. Pero ang kung natay ordinance sir, na executive order ng President, which one will be?
Kung sa may executive order sa Presidente, based on any law?
Ako na yung basis of law.
O ba siya basis of law? Still, it is, ako gingon na, an advisory. Kung i-adapt sa Presidente, it's a policy. But a policy without the force and effect of the law cannot supersede a law that was passed pursuant to the powers granted of the Local Government Code by the Republic Act 7160 pursuant to the constitutional mandate. So ako yung ituhog nga kani constitutional gining at amua. Ang ila, Presidente mi, na may power of supervision. Mubita to ako gi-define what's power of supervision. Sa 7160 na butang naman dito, nag-evolve naman ang health services operations. Ang nabilin sa DOH, kada lamang pag-set sa standards, pag-operate ang mga dagko ng hospital. Wala naman na.
Pero, clarification, ang executive order sa Presidente Attorney is the creation of the body.
Yes.
But the body mo sila ang nagkuan sa policy.
Dili sa tama ka, basta sigurado mi nga na executive order before the pandemic pa, creating the body.
Not the body.
There are claims, tawag na to claims nga katuda ko nung mga guidelines nga ilang gipas was kanang gi-approve sa President through executive order. But this is a highly very technical matter, di ba? Wala lang diri karon si Attorney Ben Cabrido, but Ben Cabrido has personal experience on that. An executive order of the President to have the force and effect of a law must be published in the official gazette. If it qualifies to becoming a law, daghan pa may rules good. Hindi man sad ka pamataka ang Presidente pasag executive order, but there are certain fields, certain concerns that the President na binagnay mandate sa balaod, no, na mandate sa balaod. He can pass an executive order. That executive order has the force and effect of the law. But that executive order must be published in the official gazette to bind the public, to bind the third parties. Kung ila-ila lang, that's a personal inter-office nga memo.
Okay, more questions? Okay. Sige,
Go. Salamat. Philippines. Naragot. Alert levels.
Okay. Okay. Mayong udto. Good noon, good day to all of my beloved Cebuanos and all of my fellow Filipinos and everyone else watching this live feed from the Capitol. There have been a lot of questions swirling throughout the entire country since I issued Executive Order number 16, which states that the wearing of face masks in well-ventilated and open areas shall be optional. And there's been a lot of to and fro from those who believe that they are the legal authority on this. Well, I believe that Atty. Jon Sepulveda has more than adequately laid the legal premise for all of our acts here, whether as governor and as well as the presiding officer, Vice Governor Junjun Davide, and our provincial board. All of our acts by executive order or provincial ordinance are anchored upon the law. These are not our own personal judgments, our own personal orders, feelings, or positions. Since when we were elected and we took our oath of office, we took an oath to uphold all laws, legal orders, and decrees promulgated by the duly constituted authorities, that I will protect and defend the Constitution of the Philippines. And so, I don't know if there are those that would continue to stubbornly insist upon their own personal opinions. What has been laid out is not the product of our own irresistible urge to exercise a power play or power trip. This is nothing about power tripping. This is about recognizing our mandates, knowing what our constituents need, and knowing the situation right here on the ground. So, would you like to ask questions? Let's start.
Doc, sa katong comment question kanina nga ningon ang DILG ka posible ka magatubang ang kaso kung mapalpak ang executive order. Sa comment mo Doc.
Yes, same answer as Atty. Jon Sepulveda. First of all, what does that mean, palpak? That is a highly subjective word. And what charges should I face? But however, if Secretary Anyo really intends to file a case against me, then that is his prerogative. It will be his legacy that he will leave behind long after he has ended his tenure as Secretary of Justice, which should happen in about 15 days' time. Oh, that's right. He'll no longer be Secretary of the DILG in 15 days time. But if he files the case, it stays. So that will be his legacy. I just remembered we're going to have our mass oath taking on the 28th. He is cordially invited to our oath taking on the 28th here in Marco Polo Plaza Hotel, so that for the last time he will be able to meet up with the mayors and other officials for which in the past so many years during his tenure he has issued his orders, his directives, and at times warnings of show cause.
Your reaction, the Malacanang to Secretary Martin Andanar said that the IATF lines, a resolution will prevail.
Well, are you sure? Let me read this. There is nothing that Martin Andanar said. So, that's why I said this CNN inyo because your story was foul baiting. And I was set up also in that interview because Pinky Webb made sure that I would be the first to be interviewed so that Yusek Malaya could rebut me. So I will never again agree to an interview with CNN. In the story of CNN, the title of the story was DILG ICE filing charges against Governor Garcia. They were referring to statements by Undersecretary Densing, who by the way is a Cebuano. He hails from Katmon. And surely a careful read of the story would have shown that Yusek Densing made it very clear that filing charges against me should be the last resort or option, and that they should endeavor through their regional officials to iron out the contents of my executive order in accordance with existing national policy. That was really the meat and gist of the story, contrary to the title itself. But I guess there are those that would wish to, in order to attract public attention, need to sensationalize. So let me just correct you. This is on page 4 of the Philippine Star. Andanar says the chief executive's directive is clear, continue wearing masks. I don't see anywhere here that he says.
Superior to
Yeah, I'm really trying to. Here, I don't see it. It is, his statement is continue, the president's directive is continue wearing masks. And that is replete with many interpretations. You can continue wearing masks for as long as you do not start experiencing difficulty of breathing. It is not really convenient at that time, because we have seen many officials, even the president himself, take off the mask at times when you have been subjected to limited breathing for a long time. Even Secretary Anyo takes off his mask, but then this is contrary to, may I say again, the very strict guidelines of the IATF.
Maybe he was eating
Where?
at the time.
Okay, do you have that picture? At all times, well-fitted masks shall be worn properly, whether outdoors or indoors, private or public establishments, including public transportation by land, sea, or air, except eating and drinking, except participating in team and individual sports, in venues where ventilation standards can be maintained, except practicing outdoor sports, exercise activities where physical distance can be maintained. These are just only 3 exceptions. I do not see a 4th one, except when taking selfies or photographs.
Basketball, dili mo na pwede. Physical distancing.
So, are we going to ask the PNP to apprehend and arrest? Parehar man na, no? But I'm just quoting the order.
Apprehend and arrest.
To apprehend and arrest. Gipadakop na ka,
And put into custody.
dakpon pagyud ka. Apprehend and arrest. Waday labot pag selfie, but how many? There are so many of them. So many officials. We are just putting some sanity and a little bit of honesty and truthfulness in the conduct of ourselves. Let us stop being hypocrites. At all times, and these are the only exceptions. You media can research yourselves. There are many, many instances when you have to take off the mask. And everybody takes off. In fact, ang post pa man gani, they put mask taken off for photograph purposes. Well, they should have included that in the guideline. Because these are the only times when the virus will not hit you. If we are to follow the logic of wearing masks, that we have to wear masks at all times so that we will not be hit by the virus. So when you are eating and drinking, you can take off the mask because surely you will not be infected by the virus. When you are in outdoor activities where physical distancing can be maintained, you can take that off because you will not be infected. But when you're taking off your mask to take your selfies and photographs, and that is not part of the IATF guideline exemptions, you are liable to catch the virus and you are a candidate for apprehension and arrest. You will be apprehended and arrested. What's the difference?
Ang wana to. You were apprehended, arrested, and placed under custody pa yun. Crippled yun pa
And in fact, my executive order encourages the continued use of masks, even in outdoor places where there are huge gatherings of crowds, which was never followed during the campaign. While political camps were, trying to outdo each other in the number of people who attended the rallies, from 300,000 to 400,000 to 500,000 to 1 million. And this is outdoor but very crowded. The DILG never issued an order to apprehend and to arrest those that are not wearing masks. So, I hope that we can find it in our hearts. Sometimes when pride takes over, you are not able to think clearly. But, a little humility, because we are being very hypocritical in reacting now because there is an executive order that only formalizes what has already happened and continues to happen. My executive order rationalizes, puts some sense and logic, and puts some sense of honesty and truth in the midst of all this hypocrisy.
So, Rob, clarification lang. Ang imong gi-adapt na as provincial ordinance, ipadayon din nato pagpatuman sa province.
That's beyond my power now. That's an ordinance already. I am tasked to see to it that that ordinance will be implemented. Because as chief executive, I execute all laws, including ordinances of the province within the territorial jurisdiction of the province of Cebu. So you ask, ipadayon na to? That's not even a question. I should not even be asked. Or else, I will be accused of dereliction of duty. Because it's my duty to see to it that that ordinance is implemented.
It was unanimously carried by the Provincial Board of Prevent.
Yes. The ordinance was enacted and carried, Google said, unanimously.
And I would like
Your message
to
to the Provincial
thank
Yeah.
the presiding officer, Vice Governor Hilario Davide III, and all of our board members that acceded to my request for a special session in order to pass a measure that I certified as urgent. I am grateful that here in the provincial government of Cebu and in the province of Cebu, regardless of political color or affiliation, when it is for the good of Cebu and the Cebuanos, we cross party lines
Lord,
and
Lord,
work together as one. The presiding officer, Vice Governor Junjun Davide, is himself a lawyer and the son of a former Chief Justice. If he had objected to this, then surely he would have made himself scarce. It would have been so easy to be absent. But I talked to him last night, and he specifically said, "You are right, God." And that is why the entire provincial board supported unanimously adopt the ordinance adopting my executive order.
Doc, question lang. A comment from pagkawa ni Police Colonel Yuber Soriano. Okay.
Another topic? Oh, sige, let's finish this first.
Okay.
Same for
Okay, sige. Are you through with
Wala na sa...
no more on the ordinance? Okay.
Okay, so next issue.
Speaking of apprehension of the police, they relieved Police Colonel Soriano. Do you think he was politicized because he also made his stand?
This time, I like your question. Anine, if you noticed yesterday, I could see all of you. Your heads hanging out, trying to get my attention. I was in one meeting after another. Your necks were already getting long, but I avoided looking at you so that I could avoid answering what I knew would be this question. I had already decided to let it be, to let the issue pass, let sleeping dogs lie, and I would no longer add to the controversy. But then, I had not counted on the very ungentlemanly castigation of Colonel Engelbert Soriano, and I am told also General Vega, by the OIC Chief PNP, Lieutenant General Danao. The Philippine Star today carries his statements. When the spokesperson, Colonel Jean Fajardo, was asked about Soriano's relief, the answer was very, shall we say, appropriate, according due courtesy to a fellow officer. This was the answer of Colonel Jean Fajardo, the PNP spokesperson. Fajardo said, Soriano's relief is pursuant to the PNP rules that officials with the rank colonel assigned as provincial directors, city directors, or chiefs of police should hold their posts for a continuous period of 1 year, which could be extended to a maximum of 3 months. She said further, this is for career advancement and to give opportunity to other qualified third-level police commissioned officers. And I would have expected that kind of answer, seeing as this concerns one of their own. And so it was with great shock when I continued to read in the ensuing paragraph, PNP officer in charge, Lieutenant General Vicente Danao Jr., reprimanded Soriano for trying to be in Garcia's good graces instead of following orders from the national government. And he is quoted, "To you who are being hard-headed because you are being a sucker there." Sucker. Wow. Binisaya pa na, sip-sip. You are still young for politicking. So I love your question. You mentioned politicking. Danao said in Filipino, "Do not get into politicking. Do your job there." I was shocked. This coming from the supposed top man in the PNP hierarchy and talking about a fellow officer. Perhaps lower in rank, but still deserving of the courtesy as a fellow officer, especially since I have been trying to find out, it's been trying to again and again ask what violent crime, what violent infraction or violation did Colonel Soriano commit, except that he took a stand, recognizing my executive order. But if you read his statement, that was qualified, unless otherwise set aside by the appropriate authority. That was a very safe statement. And it was also a very sane and logical statement, because if he were to start ordering the PNP to apprehend and to arrest all those not wearing masks, then they would have nothing else to do but run after unmasked individuals, forgetting about going after the true criminals. They would have to start making illegal arrests because there is no legal basis for making such arrests. They would have to put their careers on the line, becoming possible targets. Cases filed against them for illegal arrests, and when the Secretary of the ILG ends his term in 15 days, they will be left holding an empty bag, answering all of these charges. So I believe that statement of Colonel Soriano was a well thought out, a very prudent and responsible statement. And for doing that, this is what he gets: being publicly shamed by OIC Lieutenant General Danao. I understand both of them, including General Vega, were threatened or asked to resign if they could not. Is that true? They will not make this arrest or follow the order of Secretary Anyo. I think you media are the best persons who have your ears on the ground, and you know how Colonel Soriano has conducted himself in the over year and a half that he has, or 4 months, 5 months, that he has served as provincial director. You can ask our mayors, you can ask all other officials, even the PNP personnel themselves at the Cebu Provincial Police Office. I will not add nor even suggest anything. You can ask about his performance, but feedback from our officials have been very, very positive. And so, General Danao accuses Colonel Soriano of being a sucker. This was in Filipino, so sip-sip. Sip-sip to whom? To me? I assure you, Colonel Soriano cannot be told what to do. Especially if he feels that this would have to involve him in politicking. And besides, were his actions showing that he was being biased during the campaign, during the election season? I don't know about General Danao, but what I know is the elections are over. It's no longer the season for politicking because the political campaign has ended. Or doesn't he know that? I do know that there is politicking, quote unquote, even within the PNP itself. But I will not even go so far as to castigate anyone involved. You know, and this is addressed to Lieutenant General Danao. When you accuse someone publicly and a fellow officer at that, that does not speak well of your character. I do not know this General Danao, but I had heard his name already being bandied about in the months leading up to former Chief PNP, our former Regional Director, General Sina's retirement. And everybody thought he would be named, but he was not. He has been I think for a couple of times, he was not chosen. When at last he was given this position as the head of PNP, but OIC at that. Then perhaps I can also publicly ask the question, are you not politicking? Are you not, unsa na sa Pilipino, hindi ka ba nagsisip-sip just so you will finally be appointed? Do not accuse other people of something that you may yourself be suspected of. And above all, I think all officers, all uniformed personnel in the PNP, for as long as they have acted within the bounds of law, deserve all due respect, even from an OIC PNP chief like Lieutenant General Vicente Danao.
Rob, follow-up lang with regards sa leadership sa Cebu Provincial Police Office. Posible ba na makabalik si Colonel Soriano?
Well, that's speculative. And you know, I never answer speculative questions. I am not Nostradamus or Jean Dixon. I don't have a crystal ball. So your guess is as good as mine, and I will not give a speculative answer to that.
Have they given, Rob? Have they given
Three
names
names
already?
They have not given 3 names, but according to this story,
OIC na po.
there's an OIC here. PNP spokesperson Colonel Jean Fajardo said Soriano was replaced by Colonel Elmer Lim. Yesterday morning, General Vega came here, had a courtesy to formally inform me of the relief, unceremonious as it was, because I had not recalled that he had committed any violent infraction except that he issued a statement upholding what is within the bounds of law. But then, as you see, it's hard when someone's OIC position might be depending on he's actually getting appointed. So who's politicking? Kisa nagsip-sip. So, it's Colonel Lim. Kuyog man to Colonel Lim ni General Vega. I recognized him when he said that he was formerly with 3 provincial directors from Colonel Vicente Luot, Colonel Valmoria, and he failed to mention Colonel Comendador, whom I had personally chosen in my last term, against the objections even from my family. But I stood up for him. Sadly, when I was suspended by the Pinoy administration, and Garbo had made this already a garrison state, with all of the PNP ready to attack me with their long firearms, Colonel Comendador never lifted his finger. Maybe because he was under the chain of command, but at least in the city of Cebu, Mayor Mike Rama showed that he could ask the police to be more tolerant. So that's still the issue. Because at the time, Colonel Lim was in charge of all the chiefs of police. And if you would recall, when the mayors wanted to send all of their supporters, those that sympathized with me and wanted to show their protest against the illegal suspension order. By the way, that suspension order was subsequently declared illegal by a proper court of law. But I was already Congresswoman then. So they were sending their buses, but the police chiefs set up checkpoints, if you recall, and asked those that were old enough, Dale, ikaw. The others, you were still in your kindergarten. Ang uban cameraman, guwang-guwang na puto. Ipakanaog, di ba? They could not proceed on orders of General Garbo, followed through by Colonel Comendador, and acted upon by Colonel Elmer Lim. These things you do not forget. Naibaman mo, I do not harbor grudges. I just remember. I can forgive, but I cannot forget.
Follow up? Any more questions?
Pero formally, wala pa sila gini.
Si Kuan, well, I guess he will be OIC unless... can I have the letter I was going to send? Katong Kuan, under Napolcom law, katubang where the governor chooses the draft. Under Republic Act, saan na? I will just read para itam sayop ba. You know, I am not like someone who just shoots from his hip and says that ordinance has no legal basis. Ngaway pakita. So, kita ta. Give me your draft.
There's a statement from Pagulang, from Secretary Guevara. Siya, kung gusto raw ni Cebu Governor Gwen Garcia na gawing optional talaga ang pagsuot ng face mask, madali lang naman lumapit sa IATF at imong kahit.
Well, that's a statement. I will ask, lawyer to lawyer, I will ask Attorney Jong to answer that. Anyway, we are still on the issue. Okay, we're jumping. You're the one jumping.
Sorry.
We're on the issue of choosing, di ba? So, Colonel Lim was presented by General Vega yesterday as the replacement. But not necessarily, I don't think you can call that replacement. Because, maybe as OIC in the meantime. Because, under Section 51A of Republic Act 6975, the provincial governor shall choose the provincial director from a list of 3 eligible recommended by the PNP regional director. Napolcom Circular number 2001-005 also states that within 10 days from receipt of this list, the governor is required to signify in writing on who among the listed police commission officers is her choice. That was what happened when we chose Provincial Director Colonel Soriano. If you recall, this was a list that I had rejected twice. I was looking for a Cebuano speaking officer.
April.
But when they could, no, I guess there was no qualified Cebuano speaking officer at that time. When they again presented the list, naulaw na ko. So, upon recommendation of many asking around, I got very positive reviews about the performance of Colonel Engelbert Soriano. And that was why we chose him.
Tulog.
Okay, napa?
3 names, 3 names.
Ano yung issue?
Pero wala ay directive pa ni Colonel Lim yung met.
I told, he was here, gikuyugan
General.
ni General Vega. And we agreed na we will talk again with General Vega. In the meantime, I guess he's OIC.
Busy ko man siguro. Kailangan sa kalendaryo, mga 14 minutes. Mas kuan pa. Mas dugay pa mapanos ang prisma.
Okay. Any more questions on this issue?
Pan lang. I was thinking about, they are raising such hula baloo about Executive Order 16. There are much bigger problems of the country today. You have the eruptions at Mount Bulusan. You have the skyrocketing prices of fuel. And of course, the skyrocketing prices of other commodities. There are huge problems that must be addressed. But they are spending all of their time and all of their energy on Executive Order number 16, arguing even against their own guideline. Because-
Dapat ba itong nangliki sa security guard? Wala pa.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for bringing that up. Because I read somewhere another statement from this Lieutenant General Danao and isukay siya. Don't show your face or something like that. So to? Trying to prove to one and all, bravo, do that sa mga kriminal. Pero ayaw intawon mo kauawi imong kaubang opisyal. Muramag, you cannot distinguish, switch to tiger mode. But when you are talking about a fellow officer, go back to being professional. Yes, I read somewhere here, warning the SUV owner that
That's the same police officer?
the same.
Oh,
That's his same statement. Oh, because I guess he really wants to be in the headlines now, just to be,
Luwa pa niya madagpi.
And he didn't name it.
huh?
He didn't name the one.
He did not name the SUV owner, although he already knew.
Okay.
He was castigating the SUV, but did not name.
He did not name him.
And
Very news.
in the same tone, he castigated fellow officers, naming them. Now I understand why he was bypassed a number of times. So, you have a question, Miss Cathy? We will ask Attorney John.
Ma'am, doon ay statement si Justice Secretary Ibarra daw today nga kung magkasabot lang kuno ang LGU like you and the IAT, posible niyo mo ng Cebu as pilot area sa not wearing of face mask.
Matter of principle, di ba? Na local autonomy, nabutang sa Section 105 gani, they should consult with the local government. Ilang magong lahion. We are so overzealous in protecting whatever autonomy we have achieved because it was not granted to us on a silver platter. Nabutang tanan sa balaod, na kung naa sila'y programa, di ba? Basic, they should consult with us. If the IATF would wish, as they should have rightly done at the first instance to consult with the local government units on their policies here, they are very much welcome. In fact, gi-invite na ni Gov si Secretary Anyo sa oath-taking.
We can invite Secretary
Oh,
Guevara as
Guevara
well.
as well.
They are, and this is a sincere invitation
Yes. Oh.
that I am extending.
Because gobyerno naman
Because you
ni
see,
Cruz.
and this is also to underline what Attorney Jong has explained to you. This is not a battle of personalities. This is not about my ego. This is about upholding the law and answering the mandate given to me overwhelmingly by 1,478,000 Cebuanos. To, above all, uphold the greater good for the greater number. Not the very few who may have their own interests, but the greater number that I seek because I crisscross this province every chance that I get. I am probably the one person right now here in the province of Cebu who knows the province like the palm of my hand.
Mo gyud. Walay lugar wa matuan. And muhirit po ko lang kamay wa gyud mo. I've been contacting my colleagues in other areas, and maybe media could help us. Until now, no one can give me a number of how many cases of non-wearing of mask was prosecuted. Wala, I check in Mindanao, I check. Wala, maybe ma-check ninyo kung naada ba yun in Metro Manila, for example. How many have been prosecuted already for wearing a mask?
Okay, no more questions.
I would just like to point this out, no? First of all, I would like to thank Governor Dakila Kua of Quirino Province and ULAP President. In this same news story, although relegated to the last part, because it's positive, it's the negative that always
Clickbait.
yeah, it's clickbaiting. According to Governor Dax Kua, President-elect Ferdinand Marcos should consider revisiting the Duterte administration's policies in dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, including the mandatory wearing of face masks in outdoor settings when he assumes office. The ULAP said yesterday, according to him, if he decides to extend, ULAP President and Quirino Governor Dakila Kua urged Marcos to consider instituting changes in the government's COVID-19 response if he decides to extend the state of calamity. If he decides, I see no problem to study whether there should be changes in the policy. Kua was particularly referring to the mandatory wearing of face masks in outdoor settings. The governor made the statement as he that governor, not me, because I seem to be the top tune governor now. But I'm talking of Governor Kua made a statement as he admitted that they are also considering making the wearing of face masks in public places optional, similar to the policy of Cebu. With the country heading to the new normal, Kua said the incoming administration should consider revising some of the COVID-19 protocols. There should be dimension or depth to this policy, at least outdoors. Since time will come when the pandemic will subside and it will just be a local matter. A refreshing voice spoken by the President, ULAP President and Governor of Quirino Province, my colleague in Congress, Governor Dax Kua. And I call on all local governments to remember that the Constitution mandates our local autonomy. Article 10, Section 3. Ay na to, Jong? I saw that eh.
Yes, po.
Section 10, Article 3 states that
Congress to enact a local government code
can you read it?
which shall provide for a more responsive and accountable local government structure instituted through a system of decentralization with effective mechanisms of recall and referendum, allocate among the different local government units their powers, responsibilities, and resources, and provide for the qualifications, election, appointment, and removal, term, salaries, powers and functions and duties of local officials and all other matters relating to the organization and operation of the local units.
The local government code is the product of strenuous study, research, and
Sleepless nights by your
sleep.
I was a very, very young lawyer at the time, and it was one of the principal author of the House version was former Governor Pablo P. Garcia,
My father. And in the Senate,
Senator Pimentel.
the venerable, the respected Aquilino Pimentel. Duha ka Bisaya. Motong magkasabot gyud sila.
Puro taga-probinsya.
Puros taga-probinsya.
Puro
Nahibaw.
sa may laki nga abogado.
Puros mga constitutionalists. And I hope that every local chief executive
Yes.
will defend the local autonomy enshrined in the local government code. For it took us so long to achieve this. It continues, local autonomy continues to be attacked, challenged, and if allowed, set aside. But as the daughter of one of the principal authors of Republic Act 7160, and as governor, set to serve my 5th term in this great province of Cebu with an overwhelming mandate from the Cebuanos. I am duty bound and I vow to continue to defend the local government code and our local autonomy.
Okay na? Okay na? Okay. Closing row.
Yes.
Like issue ko, you said you will be having your mass outtaking on June 28, but we observed some of the
Nag-outtake. They will still attend.
Formal,
It is more like
formalities.
formality to show the
Once.
oneness and more importantly the strength and force of One Cebu and its allies. Because all of our congressmen are either One Cebu or aligned with One Cebu. Of our 51 mayors, only 5 are not aligned with One Cebu.
Is aligned, pati mo.
Of
Totally aligned.
our 17 board members, make that 14 elected board members, all are
Once.
One Cebu or aligned with One Cebu.
Congressman.
Yeah, I mentioned that. So, and the governor is
One Cebu.
aligned. So this is more like a show of force. as a signal that here in the province of Cebu, we are united. I have invited as well Cebu City Mayor Mike Rama. He called me yesterday, maybe to make amends for his pronouncement, but he said that he was going to, in fact, I believe he already said this to the PNP, that concentrate on, no arrest, focus on